Hey, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Senior Editorial Director of Brand Insider at Media Post, and welcome to our series Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Jaime Keller, and she is the Brand Director of Bombay Sapphire at Bacardi. Hey, Jaime.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Well, I am so glad to have you here. And I actually see on the wall, I have a lineup of some Bombay Sapphire there. So are we going to share this after and have a nice little party?
I'd love to. Next time, I got to send you a bottle so that we can have a cocktail.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So anyway, very good display. I mean, beautiful bottle. How much more could you want? So, but and which is goes with you have a new campaign which it recently launched, Step into the Blue, and it really is about sort of inviting everyone to pause and just sort of reconnect and rediscover. And it's a beautiful ad. I think it makes you feel serene. So I think it's doing its job. But what I want to ask you is, what do you do when you pause in your personal life? So not at work, but in your personal life, how do you reconnect, and with what or with who?
A good question. Talk a little bit about Step into Blue, right? It's this invitation to pause, to engage, to kind of savor beauty in all of its form. To me, that's really about balance, and knowing when to clock off, when to take advantage of life and what matters most. It reminds me a lot of, like, even in the early stages of my career when I was in New York. My friends always told me, like, I was a light switch, right? I didn't have much of a dimmer. I was on and I was off. And as I reflect on that, what I realized was I spent a lot of time going out to like the East End of Long Island when I was growing up, and it was always this like safe place, this place that I loved, and it was that moment for me to be able to take a deep breath. So in the beginning of my career, I would, at the on going into the weekends, I'd hop on the train. It was only me and a handful of people that was getting off the train in Montauk at that time. But when those doors opened on the train, after the 3 hours of commute and the hectic life in New York City, that deep breath came. And it was about putting the phone down. Granted, at the time, I mean, the phone wasn't attached to our hip the same way it is today. But my friends were out there, my family was out there, and I just realized, like, that's where I found that dimmer switch,
Mhm.
and my on off button, because I was having that hard time finding that moment to disconnect. And it's friends and family that really resonate most. So, in the summer, I was always going out to the beach, and in the winter time, I was realizing again I was having that hard time disconnecting. And my sister was living in Florida at the time. My parents were starting to move to Florida, and I had some friends. Then I would start planning trips to go see friends and family again. It was like this warm weather environment that I really enjoyed. But over time, when I didn't have the chance to take these longer breaks, right? I got married, I had kids, I had a very busy career. Um, I was like, how do I find and spend more time with friends, with family, and put myself in environments? It didn't always have to be the beach, but how I put myself in environments that did allow me to kind of better transition from, life's obligations and work to really spend more time with friends. And actually, something that we started doing recently is something called micro vacations, where it's not these long planned trips. You don't have to wait for the kids to be on, some sort of holiday break or until you get a full week off. But those short getaways is anywhere that provided that excuse to put the phone down, take that deep breath, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the people and the company you're with, have a cocktail at the end of the day. And it's those short getaways that allowed me to really maximize time with the people I cared about most and avoid that burnout that you get when you just go too long without taking a pause and break. So those micro moments, they happen sometimes during the week, but also on the weekend. And those little moments really start that kind of reset button, um, where I don't feel like I start to have burnout in the same way.
Yeah, no, and I think you found your dimmer switch, like because you kept talking about on off. And I think, and I felt the same way when I was starting out, and I was actually in New York as well, and it was one of those I'd go to the weekend or wherever, or maybe I'd go the other way, Newport Beach, but it was just you go hard all week and then okay, now it's time for the weekend. It was like, thank God it's Friday really mattered then. I feel like
Hmm.
everyone now, or it seems like, has embraced the dimmer switch and
Yeah.
really and just recharging along the way, as opposed to maybe letting yourself get so spent and then it's like, oh my gosh, I just need another vacation after my vacation. So I think that's something that, I mean, maybe it evolves as we get older, but I kind of think the younger generation has figured that out earlier than us.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. Yeah. You find those moments, and it's, again, like, life is hectic, more now than ever before. And it's, there's a lot of focus on, mental health and well-being, and it just making that a part of your daily routine. And you can find it every day, when you have those transition moments, it's how you're really making the most of the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Well, getting back, starting with you back when you were in that on-off switch type of moment, according to LinkedIn, you started off at an event entertainment agency, and
Yeah.
from there you went to different brands. You kind of stuck with the spirits. You went to, I think, rum, then bourbon, and of course now gin. So, but talk about when you were first starting out, when you were graduating college, and like what were you seeing for yourself? How did you envision your career going? And then talk about the path that led you to where you are.
Okay. So I'll start a little bit like during my time in college. I think that really led to my first job outside of college and where I am today. So I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Obviously, I went there. I wanted to get a good degree. I also wanted to have fun. But the business school at University of Wisconsin at the time, and even more so now, great school for education. I didn't know at the time I really wanted to kind of go through school and end up in marketing.
Hmm.
I was really intrigued by business. I was intrigued by marketing, management, law, economics, finance. Very quickly realized that law, finance are really not for me. But the marketing piece was really interesting. I really liked how, marketing gave the opportunity for brands to create these emotional connections with consumers. But I was also an athlete in college, right? I played soccer at Wisconsin. So I think my degree in, business and marketing and management, coupled with like my competitive nature of being an athlete, really gave me that drive and the spirit that led me to where I am today. Because right out of the gates, I was career focused and I wanted to be a respected leader. And when I first worked in the sports marketing company that you talked about, it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot as an athlete. I love sports. I loved entertaining. I loved being out with people. I loved networking. But there was something that really stood out to me by being more of an executioner and being kind of part of a marketing arm for some of the brands that I worked with. Is the brand's choices were to take either customers, clients, or consumers to some really incredible events. Talking about World Series, Super Bowl, Pro Bowl, golf all over the world. But what struck me was that these brands weren't really tapping into um, their strategy, their culture, key points of differentiation for a brand. They were just doing some really cool stuff, which again was fun. But it struck a chord with me and kind of propelled me to where I am. Is I didn't want to just be a marketing arm for a brand. I wanted to be part of a brand and be part of developing and building a brand's culture and creating a legacy for the teams that I worked on behalf of brands or products that I worked with. So that ultimately led to me working for a spirit startup company where I really learned the nuts and bolts of marketing. We were a small company. We really kind of were the jack of all trades and we had to do it all. And it's
Hmm.
where I really fell in love with not only marketing, but with the spirits industry. And while I was working at Leblon, I was introduced to Bacardi Limited. Bacardi at the time was just an investor in LeBlanc Cachaça. They eventually acquired the brand.
Hmm.
But I was really inspired by the company's family ethos. I talked a lot before about, the importance of family to me. So family ethos was really important. And I loved how they approached each individual brand within the portfolio of brands within Bacardi. And each brand really focuses on creating these authentic consumer experiences. And at that point, it's really knew where I really wanted to build my career because I found like that was some of the challenges that I saw and just kind of being a marketing arm and being part of executing what other brands wanted to bring to life. Um, so I came into Bacardi after working at Leblon, and as you mentioned, I worked on a couple of different, projects, divisions, brands internally at Bacardi. And that's what led me to being on Bombay Sapphire. So I've now been on Bombay Sapphire for 4 years. And I've been fortunate to be part of a team that has helped Bombay Sapphire cross 1 million cases for the first time, which is something
Oh,
really, really great and something
nice.
to be a part of, proud to be a part of. And also, we're really starting to see how consumers are engaging differently with the category than they were even a couple of years ago. We focus a lot on kind of recruiting and introducing consumers to gin and the beauty of the category. And as consumers start to get more excited and the category's relevance start to grow, I realize reflecting back at what I was trying to achieve coming out of college is really exactly where I am today. I just obviously at the time didn't know that I'd be fortunate enough to be doing exactly what I set out to do.
That's awesome. Well, there's a question that came up there, but I don't know if you noticed, we have a visitor. My dog snuck in behind us, so just to, he's Brody.
Okay.
Meet Jamie. So, but no, I have to, because as you're talking, and it's started at the agency, but you learned then early on why you wanted to go to the brand. But someone starting out, someone wanting to be you,
Mhm.
do you think that that helped you to become better at being at a brand, since you're seeing, as you said, you're not diving in as deeply, but you're seeing the bigger picture or the overall view kind of thing?
Yeah, I think if I went straight from college with a marketing degree straight into brand side, I think there are, whether it agency roles of sorts gives you exposure to a lot of different people, a lot of different brands, a lot of different management styles, a lot of different approaches to strategy. I think if I had not had that, I think my blinders would have been up a little bit more.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't have had the aha moment that I had back then. And I think it's something that stands out so clearly to me. Even I was at that sports marketing company for 5 years. I was a lot younger, a lot more naive, and I didn't have a lot of the classical like marketing experience to tap into in that type of role. But had it not been for that, it was also a small company, so you really do get involved quite quickly in a lot of different areas of the business. So it's kind of like you kind of quickly throw off the training wheels and you just get right out there. That while it's very challenging at times, I think what it can mean for you later in your career, just by gaining that level of experience and exposure that early, certainly became a fundamental building block to where I am today.
Yeah. And as you said, it sort of helped you hone in on that aha moment of what you knew you want to do. And when
Yeah.
you're young, that's the time to try different things. And then you
Mhm.
sort of pick and choose from each of them, and then that maybe focuses your path a little better.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, what do people get wrong about you when they first meet you?
um, a lot of people don't know that I was a college athlete. And I think if someone knows you're an athlete, they kind of, you've already got that like team mentality pretty quickly. But I am competitive by nature. I am very driven. But what people don't know is how much of a team player I am. I'm happy to win and I'm quite tenacious, but nothing gives me more satisfaction than doing it with a team. And I'm fortunate at Bacardi that they really encourage like team leadership and team environment, but it's very rare that you'll see me really doing anything without the support of a team and making sure that I'm always elevating the team and putting the team first. So I think that's probably one of the things that people are most surprised by when they find out that I'm an athlete, and you kind of start to recognizing a lot of those stats you hear about the number of female corporate executives there are that played
Mhm.
sports, and the number of them that came from college sports and their
Really? Okay.
success in leadership roles. If you pull that back and you just saw me as as the type of person I am and the way that I'm driven, I just don't think people realize how much I put the importance of teamwork first.
Well, and I agree. I think that coming from sports, I similar, and I do rely on teams. I really enjoy that back and forth. I love the
Yeah.
autonomous when I need to go and do my thing, but I do love to sort of run things by people, and it just helps. I think it makes us stronger. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have,
It's early in my career too. Like we were working for small companies in some way. Like you kind of got to figure it out and you go. But when you're able, we are a very small team on Bombay Sapphire here in the US, and Bombay Sapphire is the #1 global gym brand, and US is a big contributing partner to like kind of delivering our global goals. But we're a team of about 4 or 5 people here in the US. I don't think people realize just how small of a team we are. And it becomes even more important that you rely on the team. Every individual is strong as themselves, but you're stronger as a team.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of work. We're a smaller group also within our portfolio of brands. So got the same number of people to do the same amount of work as everybody else. So it requires that consistency, the nimbleness, the agility, and the camaraderie in order for us to succeed the way that we are.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But I was have to say, I did when just we've just met, and
Yeah.
I in my head thought, oh, she was an athlete. You have
Really?
that vibe completely. I swear. I'm not just saying that. Like I'm just like she definitely did sports at some time, maybe still does it, but you just gave me that vibe. So
I wish I still could the way I used to, that's for sure.
yeah, don't we all? Okay, well, so I mean, all right, Bacardi has such a strong history. What, 160 years ago it was, or more than 160 years ago it was founded. Um, I love the history in the sense, okay, I don't want to say this wrong. Don Facundo Bacardi Masso in Santiago de Cuba. He
That's
founded
pretty good.
Bacardi. Did I say it okay?
Yeah, you said it actually really good.
Very good. He founded ours, as I just said, more than 160 years ago. But so it obviously it has an incredible history. But what struck me, I was reading through all year, I always do my snooping, and I'm reading through all the
Mhm,
history and the fact during Prohibition in 1920 that, okay, so obviously no liquor, no, it's prohibited in the US. And so
mhm.
Bacardi had, at that point had moved and had a manufacturing place in New York, but they had to shut down. So I think it's so smart that basically they started a campaign to promote, let me see, I want to get the campaign right again. They're promoting Cuba as a tropical escape from the dry United States. I mean, that's brilliant. So, like, for any campaign, I'm sure you appreciate that, whatever brand you're from. So, I want to ask though, that was certainly a way of turning, because ultimately the result was that Bacardi sales went up, and also the cocktail became a cultural boom throughout the world. So that's sort of a lemons to lemonade kind of situation, turning a bad situation into something good. So I want to ask you, has there been a difficult time in your life where you had that challenge or that adversity where you were then able to turn it into something positive?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say I'm quite blessed and fortunate that I haven't had like a tremendous amount of like challenges in my career. I think part of that, having great mentors, great leaders, and just kind of working on great brands and with great companies. However, one thing does stand out to me, and I was given an opportunity once I came into like Bacardi family of brands after working for some brands that were acquired, was I was given an opportunity to work on innovation. At the time, Bacardi did not have a real strength in innovation, but I was asked to kind of lead up what innovation for the future of Bacardi looked like here in the US. And that was new trademark development. It was potentially launching brands from other geographical regions, reinvigorating some of the older brands in the portfolio and whatnot. Um, and we talked a little bit about kind of like my tenacity and drive and desire to succeed, but what most people know about innovation is about 80 to 90% of innovation fails. So I wasn't exactly setting myself up for pure success in that role. But I'd say one, I learned how to accept failure a bit more gracefully. But I think most importantly as a marketer is realizing that there's so much to learn from failure beyond like failure itself. Learning how to avoid pitfalls in the future, learning the critical needs of consumer research, consumer insights, ideas, execution. And when you're working on something new, you've got to have all of those buckets kind of perfectly matching up to build internal belief, build external belief with consumers. And Bacardi also really has a strong culture on being fearless. So not careless, but being fearless and it
Yeah.
being okay to fail. So while we did a lot of really great work, obviously I learned a lot through the failures, a lot of which I still take forward into my role at Bombay, because even, mature brands really do need to make sure we're doing their robust research, looking at the data, consumer insights, what are moving consumers, create emotional connections with brands. Sometimes you get sidetracked a bit because you've got brands that are much bigger and you're just really focusing on growing the business. That it really helped me in my role today remember just the criticality importance of all the things that you need to do in the upfront. Again, had I not had that role, I wouldn't have the key learnings and the benefits that I have in my role today.
Well, and I think that sometimes failure is what defines you in the sense of it makes you better. How you respond to that failure, I suppose, is what makes you better. And without that, I've spoken with different people like yourself, and they say they're not doing their job, or they're not, even whether it's in personal life or professionally. If they don't have some failures along the way, then they're not taking chances and doing what they really could do.
Yeah, and also like, I think leading by example, going back to some of the teamwork stuff we were talking about before, is it makes it easier for me to lead by example. I share with them those failures because I have the experience. I'm not using examples, say, that other people experience or things that you see on other brands. I'm able to use that in helping coach and develop my team because I've actually been able to live through some of the things that were less successful.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, well, you guys, it's pretty cool partnership. You just recently announced that you have a partnership with the EI Series, which is the world's first all-electric power boat racing championship. Very cool. So, congratulations on that. Um, I think, well, I know it's at a time where I talked about at the top, where you launched the Step Into the Blue campaign, and it's like the combination, if you think about it, Step Into the Blue is all about, bringing people into the backdrop of the blue, the, serene blue waters. And when you talk about the E1 series, they're racing in the beautiful waters all across the world, which I hope you get to join them at some of those.
Yeah.
It's just a perfect synergy. So again, I'd like to take something from the professional life and bring it to the personal life. Have you ever experienced that perfect synergy in your life? What was it about?
So I've got to say, there is something about this partnership that we're embarking on with Bombay Sapphire and E1, that really is quite special. And if I reflect back to some of the things that I've worked on or been a part of, in my career, there's some things that I think tangentially like get kind of close, but this is something, and this partnership is one that I'm the most proud of. And I'll stay focused on the E1 bid with Bombay Sapphire because I think it is a culmination of what I've learned in a variety of different roles. So, for example, Bombay Sapphire obviously is a global brand, and there's a lot of people that work in local markets on behalf of global brands, big and small. But it's rare that brands have an opportunity to collaborate in a local market at a global scale,
Mhm.
the way that me and my team have been able to with the global Bombay Sapphire team. They're obviously based in London, because of Bombay Sapphire. But we collaborated really well. And I don't think that's something that is always that easy to do, because what we're going to do globally around the world makes sense here in Miami. And what we're going to do here in Miami makes sense around the world. So from the very beginning, by being able to be part of the conversations, to be part of the negotiations, to be part of kind of all the deal points that ultimately come to life through partnerships and sponsorships, we collaborated amazingly well with the global team. Bombay Sapphire, for the first time, is embarking in the world of sports and entertainment. So really goes back to my time at a sports marketing and entertainment company,
Mhm.
and all of the learnings that I got from companies that were partnering with other sport entities or athletes that didn't really have that like congruency and fit. It happens with Bombay Sapphire. So again, I don't think I would have seen that connection had it not been for that. Um, this particular sport is backed by world-renowned athletes. Who doesn't want to work with like incredible athletes?
Tom
Mark
Brady,
Anthony, but yeah,
Boston girl, Boston girl.
yeah, yeah. We're an official partner of Team Brady, so that's super exciting. LeBron James is a partner, Steve Aoki is a partner, Mark Anthony in our backyard in Miami. just to name a few, and we get to partner with them. Again, something that you don't always get the privilege to have. And I think that backdrop, that setting just kind of created this perfect storm. We've obviously the backdrop, as you mentioned, step into the blue, our blue bottle, we're, some of the strongest asset that Bombay Sapphire has is that blue bottle. Now you get to set it against the backdrop of the blue sky, the blue water, and whisper quiet boats. Those boats are super quiet because they're electric. And E1 has a real passion and a commitment to sustainability, very similar to Bombay Sapphire. So for E1, their Blue Impact initiative is all about the regeneration of marine ecosystems, which is why they're electric versus fuel and motor powered. Bombay Sapphire, we 100% sustainably source all of our botanicals from around the world. So again, there's these really great congruencies across Bombay Sapphire and what we looked for and shared values with E1. And of course, the occasion. The occasion is really disruptive for gin. I think gin has a history of being set in the back bar, a little bit dark, very lonely, single-minded in nature. Where now we're actually bringing gin out into the light and allowing consumers to really relish in the beauty of life. We talked about it from the beginning. So the partnership with E1, when it kind of first came to us as an opportunity, seemed really exciting and really interesting. But I guess I really didn't expect like all of it to come together the way that it has. And of course, the series finale and finals and championship series finales in Miami in November. I'm with you. I agree. I hope I get to go to some of the other races around the world. I'll definitely be here in
I used to
Miami.
be there in Miami, but
Yeah, it's an exciting chapter for the brand.
yeah.
And I think all of the learnings that I had on a small brand like Leblon, partnering and doing things around the World Cup when it was in Brazil, trying to bring brands and ideas closer together in sports marketing and all that, innovation and looking at consumer insights. This is the first time I've really been able to use all of the nuts and bolts and core of what makes great marketing, great brands connect with consumers emotionally, that it kind of really feels like we've got a crescendo and we're doing it with a new sport. So being fearless, we're taking a bit of a risk. But as the sport grows and develops, we get to build and grow with it in a way that's really organic and authentic.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, obviously, it sounds like aside from with Bombay Sapphire being such perfect synergy, but it also sounds like for your career, as you said, you've brought back, from the sports marketing and from all of the things that you've pulled in from, it's the perfect synergy for you career-wise. But I want to take it a little bit onto personal Jamie. So outside of work, has there been that perfect synergy?
Um, I think moving to Miami. I am New York through and through. I miss New York. I fortunately get to go back, those micro vacations, kind of the short mini trips back. But and I love New York City. I love the energy. I love the way you meet people there. I love the things and culture and everything there is to do there. But I did feel a bit stifled, oddly enough, in such a fast-paced city. I always felt that I needed a bit more. And I think the way that life kind of opens up itself here for me and just gives me a little bit more of that freedom and flexibility. I just say it's helped me find that work-life balance in a way I didn't expect. I do think some of those synergies do come along with where I am in my life at the moment. I've got young kids. I want to give them more space. I didn't think that I could do that back in New York. I've got an opportunity to more easily travel around Florida. So I think it's like the synergy of me and knowing that I feel like where I belong. My family is also not too far away, kind of like an hour away. So I just think it allows me to bring all the things that matter most to me, kind of just helps bring it all back together again.
Yeah, no, and I think you made a good point. It's in this time of your life. I think there are perfect synergies throughout our life. I
Yeah,
mean, what might be a perfect synergy back in when you were in your 20s, maybe not so much today. And I think that's something instead of looking for that one perfect time, it's all
yeah.
these different things that sort of accumulate and make up our lives. So I think I like that you said that it seems like you found a little bit more of your dimmer switch in Florida than
Yes.
in New York,
Yeah.
I think that completely makes sense.
Yeah.
What's your obsession right now? What is your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure. Reality TV. Not usually like the most inspiring kind.
Like
Like
what?
some of the shows on Bravo, Summer House, Below Deck. I think that helps me disconnect a little bit.
Mhm.
I'm starting to realize now as I'm talking about it, maybe there is this connection to this outdoor space. Summer House set in beautiful backdrop in the Hamptons, Below Deck, beautiful areas, on the water around the world. Um, but there's something about it. It's just, I don't know, besides the drama, it somehow becomes a really easy way for me to, I guess, clock off sometimes. I also love just some mundane tasks. Like I like cooking, but I think it's less about the output than it is like the prep. I think I make a pretty good sous chef. Give me some things to
Mm.
just kind of chop. I think, you know, cutting fruits and vegetables, color by number things. I think there are things that allow me to just like kind of focus on a simple task.
Yeah.
Somehow allows a lot of the stresses in life, the things that you've got going on in work, allow me to just kind of shut off a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because otherwise, if it's too silent, you're thinking about all these things you need to do, or
Yes.
whatever. And then, but if you have, whether it's mindless TV, for me, it's like a crime drama, or
Uh-huh.
or I love crosswords, like things like that. The jumble, all of the New York Times
Yeah.
game. So, but it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it can make sense, even chopping something in the kitchen. So you're focusing on not cutting your hand. So
I love good documentaries. Sometimes it just I gotta there's moments where, a good documentary, I think there's nothing like it. But it just in terms of the more mundane things, the things that allow me to like, kind of switch my mind off, as you said, like think about, not think about things that are going on. Sometimes the documentary still stays up in my head a bit. But yeah, totally. I forget about everything else that's going on and enjoy some Bravo TV.
yeah, no, it sounds good. Do you watch The Housewives? I mean, everyone watches one of the Housewives.
I used to. I don't that much anymore. I used to watch Million Dollar Listing, but I know it's not on quite like it used to be.
Yeah.
So
So, all right, very cool. All right, tell me,
yeah.
is there something, maybe a small talent that you have? It could be inconsequential, something that other people don't know about you.
I'm a pretty good water skier,
Really?
which is kind of random, yeah. And I when I was in camp when I was a kid, I used to trick ski. So they're the skis that you turn on and step over the
Wow.
ropes and stuff.
Okay.
I don't know. I wonder how I'd be now. I don't know. Um,
So it's not a
but
Miami thing. It's not like suddenly you picked it up since being in Miami.
no, I don't know if I would here. I'm a little too scared of sharks.
Oh,
Um,
okay, I'm with you there.
but yeah, water skiing. It's a little bit random,
Very
but I
cool.
loved it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I tried. Never. I just never got up. No upper body strength. Enjoyed the beautiful water, but other than
Yeah.
that, that was my thrill of it. So, all
Mm,
right, very cool. Okay,
mm.
so my last question to you is, if you had a time machine and could go back to any moment in your life, past or future,
Okay.
when would it be? And who would you take?
Um, my mind goes to two places. I feel like it's for the same reason. Um, Early 2000s, like pre-cell phone, internet ubiquity, and retirement. So that's my future. Um, both of those are really geared around like disconnecting from the fast-paced world, retirement because I don't have to. And then like those early 2000s, it was kind of like it's kind of all summing everything up for me. But um, when you were done with work, it wasn't like you went home, turned on your laptop, and kept working. Like you were done for the day, which is kind of rare these days. And maybe it's a little bit of a habit in my life that I'm kind of keep going back to these two same places. But both time periods allow you to disconnect from this fast paced world, tension's fleeting, true immersion, and kind of the people you're with without all those other distractions. And really giving you the time to appreciate those moments in life. So um, I think that's where I go back to, and clearly I'm looking forward to my retirement.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I fought getting a cell phone. Fought. I'm like, I don't want people to reach me all the time. Like it was like, and then you have to finally give in. But it was just like I completely agree. Sometimes you just want to be off. And I don't think that happens to us anymore. It's like all of a sudden, it's like you have an idea. Oh, let me grab the computer or the laptop, so it's just, anyway, I
Yeah,
completely
you
agree.
can't live without it anymore, and everything really starts to blur. And I think in those two moments of times, there's some clear delineation to roles, responsibilities,
Yeah.
and a bit of that freedom space. So
Yeah, completely agree. Well, Jamie, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I wish we could open the bottle of Bombay Sapphire back there right now. I think we'd have a lot of fun.
I think we would too. We'll have to do it again in person, sometime soon
Def-
in person.
when you venture to New York, let me know.
I definitely will. It's great to talk to you, Lisa.
Yeah, so great to talk to you, Jamie, and thank you for watching. As I always say, if you know another fabulous woman like Jamie and you'd like me to pull back the curtain, let me know and I will do my best. So, and thanks again, Jamie.